The thing about all this lark of trying to do repair videos is sometimes you feel like you're trying to prioritize the video over the actual repair. I think that might have been the case in this one. This is the amp and power supply module from a Carlsbro 12300. I think it's a Gamma 12300 active PA speaker, 12-inch. Made around 2004. In fact, we've got a date of 4/20/2004 on the board there. And this apparently had a fault where the bass driver section wouldn't cut in until the volume was at a certain point. And up until that point, apparently this had been super reliable for years. It's a fairly sort of textbook straightforward design. We've got linear power supply, an LM3886 down here that drives the compression driver for the treble side, and then we've got a separate amp board here that works in push-pull with its own power supply rail and everything to drive the bass side. So all the output transistors around here, the driver transistors here, there is a bridge rectifier down there, are all for the bass side, and this relay. This is controlled by a protection chip which is tucked away down there, so there's a protection circuit, and there are also a couple of Vactrols, which is an LED and an LDR together, I think for each side, treble and bass, that provide a protection circuit, a kind of limiter circuit, I think, in the way. I got the diagram for this. I spent quite a while reading through the diagram, going over how it all worked. I was going to do a full walkthrough of how it all did work, and I expected to set all this up on the dummy load and everything, which is a little bit small for the full power of this, by the way, so I'm not running it to full power. These are only 100 watts. Put it all on and expected that I'd have no output from the bass side, and it bloody well worked perfectly. Almost. The one fault that I found is this wire that takes the signal from the preamp section and active crossover section over to the power amp for the bass side. If I tap this and taps around this with a screwdriver, the scope would wiggle and we would see noise output, so it was oscillating. So I've put a little bit of cleaner in this, just made sure the solder joints are alright. I've tidied up a couple of solder joints, especially around the collector pins on a couple of the output drivers, because one or two of them look like they got a tiny crack in them. And now that I'm tapping this, it actually worked fine. If I put the power on, I have a signal going in, a 100 Hertz signal. If I just bring up the gain and volume, you can see that yellow trace on the scope there is the bass side. And if I tap around this wire now, it seems to be a little bit there. Look, seems to be more or less fine. It was worse than this before, but I was tapping around the relay and all sorts trying to get it to go funny. So that could have been the only fault. We tested the cone, we tested the bass cone, it was fine. I've run a full sweep on this, it was fine. Let's do that actually. Let's change the configuration of the signal generator that I've got here, and also change the battery in my scope camera because it's about to go, and then we'll run a sweep on it and see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm running a 30-second sweep here, 20 to 20k. The yellow trace is the bass driver output, the blue trace is the treble side that the compression driver takes, and you get a little jump there because it's triggering from the bass side, so when that signal drops too low, it turns to freewheeling. But the voltages are even. If I bring up the gain a little bit, see, that's working fine from both outputs. Tapping that around is giving me no issue. It's nice that on this one there's a couple of status LEDs on the treble side at least, because there's a plus and minus 15 volt supply, so that shows you the status of those two. On the outside there are two status lights for, it says AASS, I'm sure that's going to be the protection, probably the limiter kicking in, so they're probably paralleled with the LEDs in the Vactrols, and they probably blink when the limiter's kicking in, which I'm not going to run on this because, as I say, I've only got 100 watt dummy load resistors on there and this has 8 ohm speakers, so I've got to run 8 ohms, I can't parallel them with 4 ohms, but it's working. So I'm going to undo all this after being happy with all this and go and put it back in the cab in the studio and go and test it. By the way, when I tested it first time, it did sound tinny, as if the bass driver wasn't running at all, so it did exhibit the fault at the start. It could have been that, but when I put it on the bench it worked, and that was the only bit where I could actually make it show any kind of fault. So let's go and do that. Is it gratuitous self-promotion if you're trying to avoid copyright trouble on YouTube? Well, I made the music, so I don't see the problem. Either way, that speaker obviously works perfectly fine. Now that obviously comes as part of a pair, so the other speaker might be faulty, it might not. I think we better test that at some point, and if it is, there'll be a follow-up video. If it isn't, there won't be. But it's not the only video I've got on active speakers, because I've got something else coming up. I'm in the process of quite a long repair at the moment on a set of active speakers. That video is a bit of a bear because there's lots of complex edit things I was trying to do with screen sharing and going through circuit diagrams, and the first time I'd sort of used the close-up camera in earnest and multiple cameras and all sorts. Changed mics about 4 times halfway through it, changed computer part way through it. So yeah, I'm trying to wrestle with the edit of that to get it down a little bit, and the actual repair itself was quite frustrating in a way. But yeah, that'll be coming up soon, so if you're interested in that, keep your eyes out for that one, and for anything else, thanks for watching.